Welcome to the Sacred Healing Podcast, where the old is new, the ancient is innovative, and the forgotten is remembered. We believe that sacred healing is your birthright. Join us on each episode as we uniquely, authentically, and mystically dive into the bold and vulnerable life of many magical humans. From breath, spirituality, shadow work, and all things in the esoteric realm of healing, we don't leave any stone unturned on this bold journey of growth as we start to explore the remembrance of what it means to be human. So take a deep breath in and a deep breath out, and let's get sacred.
Sacred humans, welcome back. We have another episode for you this week, and we are talking to Brianna Grace. She is an upcoming singer and songwriter based in San Diego, California. Growing up in the suburbs of Boston, Brianna loved music and performed in musicals, played the alto saxophone in the wind ensemble, and taught herself guitar to accompany her singing. However, after attending business school, she lost connection to music and art and creativity while trying to fit into a corporate world. And after struggling with depression in 2021, Brianna was introduced to meditation and mindfulness, which completely transformed her life. And through her mindfulness practice, she rediscovered and started to remember her love of music and her love of creating art and her love of passion. And she started to perform publicly. And in late 2023, Brianna left her corporate America job to pursue her passions full-time. And fun fact, I was right there alongside her in that corporate space, cheering her on from the sidelines. And since then, we've both left the corporate space to really bring our Dharma into the world. Her original music is so heartfelt and powerful, and she pulls on themes from her own struggles and her views of society, her love of nature, and hope for the future to really bring that essence to her music. She just released her first single off her debut EP to be released later this year. In addition to bringing her original music into the world, Brianna can be found performing at music venues, house concerts, wineries, and private events across Southern California. She's always got live events coming up. She recently played at Belly Up in San Diego, and today we chat about one of the venues that she's been dying to play at. And since this podcast has aired, she's actually performed there. So all of her dreams are manifesting and coming true, and she's always performing. So even though we're airing this episode after this conversation, so you may have missed a few of her latest gigs, please check out her upcoming gigs on her website and check out her latest single, Protect Your Energy, off her upcoming EP, which is now streaming live on all platforms. I hope you guys enjoy this heartfelt episode with Brianna Grace. Let's just take a few breaths here. Inhale through your nose. And exhale. We'll do two more like that. Inhale through your nose. And let something go. And last, inhale deeply in through your nose, filling up your lungs. And HA, ha. Maybe shaking out your shoulders, shaking out your wrists, your ankles. And then finding stillness. Connecting to your heart. And knowing that as we drop into this beautiful conversation, whatever is meant to come up will come up, and whatever is meant to be will be. And so just allowing the frequency of light to come through you, using your voice, which is your gift and your medicine to the world, in speaking form and in musical form, if you'd like, to share your genius with the world and give the gift so that people can connect more deeply to who they are and their souls and their beingness. And feeling the vibrancy and gift of your medicine in every single one of your cells as it drifts through your veins into your heart, filling your heart up with joy. And starting to feel gratitude that we get to be here at this moment in time, in this transcendence on this earth. A little sphere spinning through space. And we get to be here during this time of relived trauma on the planet. And we get to be the bearers and bringers of light to the world, to the planet, and to all the people that we touch in our lives. Because we know that there are horrible things going on throughout this entire planet, but we get to stand and sit in peace and feel the frequency of clean water, clean food, clean air, a safe container, and the gift of technology to share our light with the world, and the gift of being safe to do that. And taking a deep inhale through your nose. And releasing any tension, stress, trauma, anxiety. Starting to connect back to your heart. And then starting to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Maybe your jaw, your eyebrows, releasing any tension from your neck. And starting to bring yourself back into awareness of your body. Grounding into your seat. And then slowly, when you're ready, starting to flicker your eyes open. And coming back into our third dimension space.
Beautiful. I love your drop-ins. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Whew. Didn't know how much I needed that.
Yeah, right.
Today has been a long day. I've recorded another podcast today already. So I'm like, ooh, I really needed that drop-in. Thank you. And I got my tea here.
Amazing.
And I'm ready. Oh my gosh. Brianna, I'm really, really pumped for this recording. First of all, you came into my life at a very special time, about 2 years ago now, which is like weird to say that we've known each other for that long. And we almost immediately became friends. It was like, it was weird. Like it was pretty immediate. And there was a connection there, some sort of like thread. I was like, okay, we've dropped into some deep conversations really, really fast, and really started to get to know each other on a soul level. And we're able to share really like deep things about our lives together. And you've been somebody that has not only inspired me, because I've been watching this journey, like culminating in you basically like going and following your Dharma, which is like the most beautiful thing you could witness anyone doing. And not only that, but we've also seen like multiple versions of ourselves transforming even over the past 2 years, which is insane to think about, where we were when we met each other versus like where we are now. Like laugh just thinking about it. And yeah, you're a very special person to me, and you inspire me on a really deep level to follow my inner compass and my inner knowing, and not to question it. And I'm really just excited to share that gift and that light with the world. So thank you for joining the podcast today, Brianna Grace.
Thank you, Jess. It's such a pleasure and such an honor to be here. And when you asked me to come on, I was giddy and nervous and excited. And you've been such an inspirational beacon of light in my life over the past 2 years. And yeah, just grateful for our friendship and our connection, and excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would love to talk about kind of the journey to today. And it doesn't have to be a linear story. We can jump around. But what I would love to dive into is kind of like not the 5-year-old self, but let me rephrase this. What I would love to dive into first is your awakening as a being of light and a bringer of light, because that's truly what I see you as. And so I would love to talk about your journey with mental health, your journey with depression, and with finding this like big awakening and not necessarily knowing what to do with it. Because I really, truly think that would resonate with a lot of the listeners who are potentially dealing with some of the same things, but not really knowing how to navigate when things like that come to them. And because we're seeing on this planet now more than ever that people are waking up to their true selves and their true purpose and Dharma, and might have like really highly sensitive, energetic bodies. And so I would love to kind of reverse the clock a little bit and look at Brianna from back in the day. And we kind of share a little bit of a party background, if you will, if you want to call it that. So I would love to kind of hear about the journey from being like party Brianna to like having an awakening experience, and what that was like for you.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, we'll dive right in here. So I went to business school, got into corporate America after college, and worked in a sales role for software companies throughout my 20s. And really, it was a great experience in a lot of ways. But I found myself really disconnected from my heart and who I truly am. I was going out partying and drinking 6-7 nights a week. Wasn't playing music. I'm a musician. I was really just focused on trying to fit into a certain paradigm, trying to really be normal. That was like my biggest goal throughout my youth and in my 20s, was just to try to fit in and be normal. Because truthfully, I never really felt normal on the inside, which I see as a blessing now. But long story short, I couldn't be alone. Like I said, I was going out every night, never spent any time by myself. Truthfully, because I think I was afraid of my inner world and afraid of actually tapping in. But then, like many people in 2020, our lives were flipped upside down, and all of a sudden I was living by myself and didn't have the people around me to, I guess you can say, dissociate and like numb through substances. And I found myself really depressed. I had just gone through a challenging breakup with a longtime friend that really rocked me. I was miserable at my job. I was, numbing with alcohol pretty much daily, and really feeling low. And I was grasping at that point. I was talking to people about, what can we do to help depression, and because drinking wasn't working, smoking weed wasn't working, my normal coping mechanisms. And somebody was like, you should try to meditate. And I remember laughing in their face. I was like, meditation is for the birds. I don't need it. I'm fine. Is there a pill I can take? That was, my mindset at the time. And the irony is, yes, I actually did take a small dose of an antidepressant, which didn't feel like it did much, just made me feel pretty numb. So long story short, I was getting desperate, and I decided to give this meditation thing a shot. I was actually reading Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, Becoming Supernatural, if you're familiar with it, which was an amazing paradigm shifting experience for me, because it was the first time that I heard some scientific backing to some of these spiritual concepts that I kind of thought were, kind of etheric and not really grounded. And so that helped open my eyes to the idea that our thoughts do have power over our reality, and that we have, a birthright to create our own worlds. So anyways, I sat down to have my first meditation experience, and about 2 minutes into it, I felt this surge of energy at the base of my spine, at my root, which I now know as a root chakra. At the time, I wasn't familiar with the chakra system or anything like that. Felt this surge of energy at the base of my spine, and all of a sudden it just shot out of the top of my head, and I just had this feeling I was not in my body anymore. I was on the moon, looking down at Earth, admiring her beauty, and I felt the presence of other beings around me. I had this overwhelming sensation of oneness, unconditional love, purpose. I knew I had a purpose and a role here on this planet, and every single living being on this earth has a purpose and a role on this planet at this time, a unique purpose. A Dharma, I think you used that word before. Again, not familiar with those concepts at the time, but it was just this overwhelming experience. And I, for 2 weeks afterwards, didn't come down. I was connected to this. I can only describe it as just like a higher intelligence. I felt like I understood the ways of the world. I understood more than everything made sense. I understood how things worked. I don't really know how to describe it. I was writing songs. I was creating different TikTok accounts. I all of a sudden became interested in cryptocurrency, which I had never expressed any interest in before. Created a whole TikTok account around that, where I had different characters, and I was having a lot of fun, playing these characters and tapping into my creativity. Again, I was writing songs, and I was sharing that and sharing my meditation experience with anybody who would listen. At this point, it was on social media. And so and it was truly the most exhilarating, life-changing experience of my life. And I am so grateful for that moment and honestly, everything that has transpired since. And so you can imagine how, from an external perspective, I was just in this deep depression. And all of a sudden, I'm over here telling you about how you have a purpose for life. Meditation is going to change the world. I was kind of like on this soapbox talking about these things. And from a Western medicine perspective, that looked like a manic break. So people in my life were concerned. And I also grew up in the Northeast, where, this is what happened to me is I think pretty common. Whereas if someone shows signs of mania, we're going to go straight to Western medicine. And what ended up happening to me is I was committed to a mental institution where I stayed for about a week, where I was, and I told all of the doctors and nurses about my awakening experience. And my intuition, my inner knowing kept saying, this is the best thing that ever happened to you. This is the best thing that ever happened to you. And I knew that in my soul, but everyone outside of me was telling me that basically telling me that I lost it. So in this mental institution, I was pumped with antipsychotic medication. I started to feel the light that was coursing through my being slowly start to fade. It never fully faded, but that medication is no joke. But yeah, in that moment, I remember sitting in the hospital bed, just being like, how the heck did I get here? And I realized that I got there because I listened to external factors opposed from living listening to my internal intuition. And I said to myself, that's the last time that I will do that. Moving forward from this day on, I will listen to my intuition fully. And that's truthfully what I did since then. And I just want to say one little story there too. I mentioned before that I'm a musician, but for those years that I was working in those sales roles in, downtown big city, I rarely played guitar and sang. Maybe if there was a guitar at a party and I was drunk enough, I might play, but it was very far and few between that I would actually do that. And this awakening experience made me remember my passion for music, passion for singing, and sitting on that hospital bed, deciding to listen to my intuition above all else. I left the room. I was walking through the hallway and I look up and there's this bulletin board and it had pictures of James Taylor, Miley Cyrus, Selena Gomez, I think Demi Lovato maybe. And it said alumni of the mental hospital that I was at. And I was like, damn, I'm in good company. It was like this very clear conversation with the universe that like, oh no, everything's good. Everything's fine. You're exactly where you need to be. And just another piece about music and just how this experience really reconnected me with that is at the hospital, they did have a guitar and every night I would play and sing for the patients and the nurses there. And the last night I was going home the next day, a fellow patient came up to me and asked me to play a Chance the Rapper song. And I did, and it was fun. And afterwards, one of the nurses came over and said that this man has been here for 3 months and hasn't said one word, has not spoken one word in 3 months. And it was just this overwhelming, beautiful experience and reaffirmation that music is truly so healing and brings us together. And yeah, so that I feel like I've been talking a lot. Do you have any questions or?
Yeah, I'm deeply listening. So when you had this awakening and, started creating, essentially, like figuring it out and just creating, not questioning, just creating. And then people were like, okay, Brianna's like gone off the deep end. Let's get her into a mental health facility. What did the process look like for you checking into the facility? And like, was that a personal choice? Was it a forced experience? Was it a personal choice for you to go into the facility?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because I did sign myself in, but it was through, strong, suggestion, I guess you could say.
Okay. Yeah. No, totally got it. And then once you were in there, you mentioned taking medicines that were kind of dimming that light that had awakened inside of you. Were those medications things that you had to take every day? Was that like a part of the program?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we twice a day, I will never forget this. This was just so demoralizing. I felt like cattle. They would have us all line up in a line twice a day. There was a little window where the nurses sat and they had these little mouthwash cups of your pills and they'd have you take it and then they'd check your mouth to make sure that you didn't like hide it under your tongue or something. So yeah, twice a day you're lined up like cattle taking your pills. There wasn't even a question for me. There was no consent around the medication either. And it's a blanket solution for any mental health concern in Western medicine, which is here's some heavy duty medication. Let's just give you this to stabilize you. And I think that's the thought process. And I don't want to take away from certain scenarios where I'm sure that is necessary, but the fact that that is the standard commonplace, just to put people on these really heavy duty medications that are quite frankly really dangerous and we don't really look at the long-term side effects of them is a crime in my mind. Yeah. Oh, it was a rough period of time.
So you were in there for a week and taking those medications. Was it hard for you to get off of those medications? Like, did you have to continue taking them after you left? What was the procedure for releasing you back into the world?
I was told that they couldn't confirm, but they thought that I had bipolar 2 and that I would be on these medications, lithium, Abilify. There was a couple other ones. I know Britney Spears was on lithium for that whole period of time. It's like, it's numbing. It's like personality shifting, numbing medication. I was told that I would be on them for the rest of my life. I got out of the hospital and I became a shell of myself. It was worst depression that I'd ever experienced prior. I was developing these really intense anxiety and panic attacks every time I went out into public. I actually ended up having to call my father a couple weeks after I got out of the hospital to have him come stay with me because I was concerned. I was having suicidal ideations, which I had never had before. And it was pretty rough. And I decided to cut one cold turkey, which I do not recommend to anybody. That was a really scary period of time. That's when my dad was living with me, because I couldn't take it anymore. And then I ended up weaning myself off of the other medications on my own over a period of like 3 or 4 months. I did that a little bit more safely. But I haven't been on any of those medications in over 1.5 years at this point. Haven't had any, manic depressive outbursts. And yeah, I'm really grateful to have listened to my intuition to get off of those, because I certainly wouldn't be where I am right now if I had listened to what everyone was telling me and kept on those medications.
Yeah. And I think it's just a testament to not always believing the diagnosis, getting a second opinion, going and seeking more knowledge, even if it is from multiple Western medicine folks and functional medicine, like trying to seek out more information, not just believing some sort of a diagnosis, which I know that you never really believed anyway. So kind of moving off of those medications and having that intense experience with meditation, did that make you scared to meditate again? Like, what was that process like? Kind of going down more of a holistic path, which as your friend, I know that you kind of turned into more holistic medicine. And were you scared to like first meditate again? What was that experience like?
Great question. And absolutely. I think the irony here is that meditation is what put me into mental hospital, but meditation is also what saved my life. And yeah, seriously, like 3 cheers for meditation and going inwards. I knew, the irony is not lost on me, but I knew at the time that mindfulness is actually one of the biggest solutions to mental health crisis that we're experiencing globally. And so I was pretty scared to meditate myself. I relied heavily on guided meditations for a long time because I was afraid to actually sit down without any type of parameter, just so I wouldn't fly off again necessarily. And there were times where like I think I have a predisposition to be up in the ethers. And so especially after that first awakening experience, I would have moments where I'm like, oh, I'm real outside of my body right now, and actually work to ground my energy. But that was all stuff that I, seeked on this path afterwards. But yeah, I was pretty scared of meditation, but I did see that meditation is truly the solution to the mental health crisis. And I ended up applying my sales skills and got a job at one of the top mental health and mindfulness companies in the world. And I was selling that application to Fortune 100 companies to have them include it as a mental health benefit for their employees, include mindfulness and meditation. And so that was the first thing that I did after I got out of the hospital, which is, again, to apply my skills to something that I truly believed in. And now today I'm no longer fearful of meditation, rather quite the opposite.
Yeah. And just like want to dive like so much deeper into that, because going along the holistic path. Okay. So meditation is one of like the tools in your tool belt that you've used to kind of like heal, and to go inward and more deeply understand self. You mentioned getting a job, which you and I've talked about this, but just wanted to kind of share it with the world. You like really manifested that job for yourself. You really like went inward and said, how can I use my gifts to greater serve collective, and like sought that out. So can you tell the world a little bit more about how you like really manifested that job? Because it was synchronistic, but also like truly like you took action to manifest something that you wanted to come to life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another thing that I got very passionate about after this experience, which is manifestation and curating your world. And yeah, so I remember I told some of my friends, we were on a walk after I got out of the hospital, and I was like, I'm going to work at this company and I'm going to be the top salesperson. And they're like, okay, Brianna, sure.
You see my cup?
Yeah.
We used to work here.
Yeah, exactly.
We love mental health and wellness.
Yes, we do. I think my mug's inside, but yeah, I have my chakra mug today, but yeah. And I remember looking on LinkedIn, and it said that they got between 300 and 400 applicants a day to apply for jobs at this company. And I was telling my friends, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this job. So the first thing with manifestation is belief. I think a lot of the time, you hear all these different manifestation tactics, and it's like, okay, you write down the things that you're calling in, but if you don't actually believe what you're writing down and believe these truths, then it's never going to happen. So I just had this unwavering belief that I was going to work at this company, and I do the journaling exercises. I write all the time in present tense of the things that I am calling in this case, this job. And then I hustled too. I also prospected the shit out of myself to anybody at the company that would listen to me and listen to my passion around mental health. And eventually somebody did listen to me, put my resume at the top of the list, and I got an interview, and then the rest is history. So I think there's like a beautiful balance between the etheric realms of manifestation and like what you're calling in and the belief behind it, and then the action, because the action is actually what's going to tell the universe, yes, I'm serious about it, and the universe will therefore open doors for you. And I'm getting chills as I'm saying that.
And we were just talking about this before we jumped on here too. It's just like, how are you going to manifest the next thing, and then what action steps do you take to get there? It's just really, really cool, because not only did you manifest this job that you wanted in a space where you were like, I went through this journey with mental health. Now, how can I give back and help the collective who needs to experience healing with mental health, specifically around meditation and sleep quality, and really just getting into deeper forms of breath work and on a lot of different types of tools and exercises to be able to feel one with self, and to heal deep types of depression. Mm-hmm. And also, and you also said in that little manifestation, you were like, I'm not only am I going to work there, but I'm going to be the top salesperson at the company or on the team that I'm on. And like cut to, you did get an award for being a top salesperson. So it's just one of those things where it's like, holy shit. Okay. Yeah. There's some like realness and truthfulness to not only the manifestation, but also you mentioned something that I think sometimes people forget, which is like truly believing in it. because sometimes people manifest and write something down, but deep in their heart, they're like, it's never going to happen. Right. So like that true belief in self, and being so authentic with what you're asking for is amazing. For those of you who don't already know, my husband and I own a coffee company called Gay Head Coffee. And of course, we drink our own coffee every day, and it's some of the most flavorful and inviting coffee, especially with the nostalgia of coming from a can rather than paper or plastic packaging. But I'm biased, so check it out for yourself. If you're interested, head over to the show notes where you will find a link to order your coffee today from gayheadcoffee.com. That's GAYHEADCOFFEE.com. Thank you all for your support. It means the world to us as a small business. What other sacred healing tools did you use besides manifestation and meditation to like pull yourself out of this darkness? Because weaning off of those medications and like you said, having suicidal thoughts and like really getting into a dark place, like you literally pulled yourself out of that place. And that's really, really hard to do. I don't want to ignore the like strength and courage that it takes to do that, because yes, there's all the tools in the world, but you have to know how to harness them, and you have to be willing to say like yes and go deeper. And you said yes to being on this planet and you kept going deeper. What other tools did you use to like really pull yourself out of that place?
Great question. I'm going to answer this question in kind of a roundabout way, and just, I guess, continue the story, but I'm going to hopefully answer it as I continue. But after I got the job at this company, something else that I manifested was the ability to travel freely and find myself. I knew that I'd been living this certain life really to try to fit into a certain box, and I was really disconnected from my true being. I knew that I had a lot of self-discovery to do. And so one of the things that I was looking for in this job, in this new life, was the freedom to explore and find myself. And the company that I was working for was a remote job where I could be anywhere. And I left my hometown a month or two after getting this job and started a national road trip with one of my best friends and my dog, and then spent the summer traveling Europe. There was a while there where I was living on a sailboat in the Azores, taking sales calls from from the deck of this boat. Just like, I spent a lot of time in London, had a beautiful love affair in Portugal, just like lived it up. And part of that journey was meeting medicine men and medicine women of all different paths, seeking alternative forms of healing. I think many people can relate, but yoga has been a huge healer for me. Breath work and the community around those spaces really allowed me to feel held and feel like, okay, I have people around me now. I learned about emotional freedom technique, EFT tapping, where you're tapping on your meridians as you're saying certain affirmations to help reprogram your mind. For me, like I said before, I had the tendency to kind of fly off sometimes. So when I feel myself elevating like that, I will actually tap on my meridians and say, I am safe in my body. I am safe in my body. I am safe in my body, and go onward. That's been a huge help for me. And honestly, psilocybin, plant medicine, has been really beneficial in my healing journey. I don't really go towards those macro experiences, but more of like a microdose experience with psilocybin. It's helped me to reframe a lot of things in my mind. It's allowed me to be more retrospective and introspective, and to almost take I feel like I look back on the things that have happened in my life, and I'm not taking things as personally. I'm like looking at it from like a different perspective when through these healing modalities.
I could go down like 17 different paths right now. But where I want to go is, you mentioned breath, and I'm a somatic breathwork facilitator, as you know, as my friend. And you actually were one of my very first clients. You allowed me to be your facilitator graciously and gratefully, because it was one of the first times that I'd facilitated breathwork. And we were in London, and we just like rented a yoga studio, and there were other folks there. But I would love to kind of dive into your experience with breathwork. Not only that session, because I would love to talk about all of the kind of synchronicities and things that have come up since then, but would love to hear about that. And then also like other breathwork experiences that you've had that have really helped you heal.
Yeah, man, that one breathwork experience was so transformational for me for so many different reasons. And I do feel like it also brought us closer as sisters and friends. But for that specific, I think that might have been like the second time I ever did breathwork. It was,
I think it was. Yeah, you were very trusting in me. I was like, I just got certified. Like
let's do it.
Total trust and like very much like we got so much closer just from that one ceremony. It's like
totally.
Yeah.
Well, so I honestly didn't really know what to expect, but after, the first round of the breath, when we had the first breath hold, I remember just seeing imagery of phoenix rising from the ashes and butterflies. It was like phoenix and butterflies, and these were just like the imagery that was running through my head. And the idea of the phoenix, that it's burnt to a crisp. Its life is no longer as it knew it previously, but it gathers the strength to reemerge as a new being, as a stronger being. The same with the butterflies. The caterpillar has its fun little caterpillar life, and all of a sudden it constricts itself into this chrysalis, and its insides turn to goo. And you think the caterpillar at that moment knows it's going to turn into a butterfly? No, their life has gone to shit. that's what it feels like in that moment. But the belief in the faith in something greater, a little bit of time allows the butterfly to come out of the chrysalis, and all of a sudden, the caterpillar to come out of the chrysalis, and now it's a butterfly. It's a completely different being that can fly. Its perspective on the world has shifted dramatically because of this transformation. And so I ended up actually I think I ended up getting a couple of butterfly tattoos after that breathwork session.
I will say you were the only known person I say because I don't know what other people have done after my breathwork ceremonies, but the only person I know who's literally gone out and gotten a tattoo from their experience. So I was like, holy shit, like I should keep facilitating. And it like actually like sparked that that inner knowing of like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be doing this. Like this is powerful medicine.
And you are very gifted. And I would definitely won't be the last person to get a tattoo from your breathwork sessions. I'm putting this on the record.
Tattoos are not forced; they're optional. Henna, any version.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about something that you mentioned about the butterfly, because you talked about the caterpillar and then transforming to the butterfly and being able to fly and having a completely different perspective on the world. And so that imagery for me is like, okay, there's a caterpillar that literally lives like on leaves and is close to the ground and is sometimes like hidden and from sunlight and shadowed under these leaves or, tall pieces of grass. And the perspective of the caterpillar is like small and trying to like weave through basically grass and sticks and leaves. And then cut to like, you're a butterfly now. You can fly. You have this perspective from like higher up looking down and able to see more and able to go from flower to flower to flower to thistle and like get nourishment from these colorful, beautiful plants in an instant. Like you're faster, you're more vibrant in color. Like there's all these things that shift and change in perspective. And so I'm curious in your own life how you feel like you've shifted in a, you know, from this green blob to like this beautiful and colorful butterfly. It's like a big transformation. How in your life has that like really shown up, and how has that like analogy of the caterpillar to the butterfly, or the, you know, ashes to the phoenix really shown up in your life?
Thank you for that question. I feel like it's presented itself in all aspects of my life. I approach everything differently now. But the biggest thing I would say is I stopped caring what other people thought of me. You know, I stopped living for other people's expectations and fully living for myself and putting myself first and discovering myself. And sharing my story and sharing my voice has also been a huge transformational experience for me. Like I said, I rarely sang for anybody. You know, I sang in some friends' weddings and maybe at a party or two, but it was not a part of my life. And through this experience, I've gained the courage and confidence to play out daily and share my original music with the world. And because I know how healing it is, music in general. So yeah, it's, and also letting go of people's perceptions of me and my change too. And especially because I had a very public awakening or breakdown, as I think some people might have referred to it, especially as someone that truly lived their life trying to fit in. This was like a pretty disruptive thing to have happened. But to let go of caring about anybody's notions about what had happened to me, what I'm doing now, and and fully pursuing my own Dharma, my own dreams. And it feels good 2 years later to be like, oh yeah, I'm doing all the things that I told everybody that I was going to do during that awakening. It feels really good.
Yeah. So this music life and this music gift that you've been given, that you're sharing with the world graciously, no pun intended, Brianna Grace. But you know, you ended up quitting your job, your 9-to-5 job. You didn't have anything else lined up. You were like, no, I'm leaving. This is no longer aligned with my being. And not to say like the purpose wasn't aligned, because you worked for a top mental health company in the world. And like that in itself has a beautiful purpose to it and is needed in this lifetime, but it wasn't like your purpose. And so your purpose was really to share your music with the world. So you quit your job, nothing lined up. And I've watched you again manifest with action your biggest dream come true. And you're now like playing at gigs, like selling out, doing private events, like all of this is coming to life. And so let's tap into that. Let's tap into this knowing of quitting your job that was, you know, giving you an abundance of financials, because I think a lot of people are scared to take that first step of like just leaving the thing. There's the term golden handcuffs, right? Like if you've been in a corporate 9-to-5 job, you probably felt that feeling before. I know I have, because I used to work in corporate as well. And it's like, there's some hold on you, or like an imaginary hold on you. What did it feel like to like break those chains?
Man,
we're both laughing because we're like, it feels so good.
Oh, it was a journey, but it was the best. Yeah, one of the best things I ever did. golden handcuffs, that analogy is so real, but understanding the abundance that is all of our birthrights, and understanding that when you take that first step, the universe shows you the path. I just had full trust that I would be held as I made this choice. And it's so true. As I left my my wonderful job, which to the shock of my friends and family, be like, are you nuts? Like, what's going on here? To pursue my passion of music. I think we're kind of like becoming, it's all full circle now. And just since doing that, more opportunities have been opening for me. More doors are opening for me. Opportunities to play at certain really cool venues are opening up for me. Things that I never even dreamed of, but it's the belief, and it's taking that first step, taking the aligned action, that allows you to call in, what's really for you.
Mm. And now getting deeper into like the music itself, because music is part of our DNA. It's read in the cell by proteins. And I grew up with music. I think, my mom's a musician. And so music is such a deep part of my life, and it physically like moves me. And it's also something I integrate into facilitating somatic healing journeys with people, because music is so powerful to move us, and the way that we sequence music together can move us from one direction to another. And it's like this like music is a temple. And so even like music is integrated into, the king's chamber in the pyramids of Egypt, and F sharp major. It's a triad. And so how does music like deeply flow through you? Do the lyrics just come out? Do you spend like time journaling and like writing your poetry and your lyrics, and then forming the melody? Like, how does that process work for you? I'm just kind of curious from a more musical standpoint how that works.
Yeah, no, great question. It feels like a channeled experience, to be honest. When I write, and this is something that I'm working on. I'm part of a songwriting collective now, where we're tasked to write one song a day, which has been a challenge, but also allows some structure and some parameters to my rather feminine flow, which is my songwriting process when I'm talking about channeling. But I'll sit down, and maybe there's just a line that's just, this wants to come out onto the page, or I have a chord progression that I really enjoy, and I'm kind of humming along, and all of a sudden a melody comes, and then the first line comes, and it's almost just like poetry. I finish it fairly quickly when the inspiration is still there. And then oftentimes I'll leave it and come back a couple hours later or a day later and either finish it or switch things around. But it does feel like it's not coming from Brianna thinking about, okay, I want to write about this. It's whatever's present in my field that just wants to come through at that moment. And recently it's been pretty raw. It's like looking back at my 20s specifically, and, advice for what I would give to that 26-year-old self that was, deep in it. And, I giving myself away to men that act half my age. That's part of one of my songs recently, and just not respecting myself. Like, what would I tell her? So it's been quite the journey.
Okay. And there's another part of that question. And thank you for sharing that, because it is an intricate process, and it's your process for creating music. I know everyone has a different experience. When you're creating just the melody and the chord progression, what comes first? Or do they come at the same time, or is it like always different for you?
It's always different, honestly. Sometimes, yeah, I have a lot of voice notes in my phone now, or that voice note real quick, from a melodic perspective. But yeah, I think half the time it's the chord progressions first. Half the time I have a line of a verse that I really like, or I have a little melodic melody that I have in my head. So yeah, it really varies, to be honest.
Not to put you on the spot, but do you have your guitar?
Sure. Yeah. I can go grab it.
Would you play something for us live?
Sure. Yeah.
While we're waiting, I just love Brianna, and I hope you guys are enjoying this episode and looking at this beautiful tree behind her. Brianna, I hope you can hear us and you're laughing. I cannot wait for this live performance. Today, I want to share with you all the delicious cacao with a K drinking chocolate. Cacao is one of my favorite brands of ceremonial grade cacao and is a delicious addition to my morning routine. Cacao is jam-packed with delicious nutrients that work with my body to stay energized, connected, and focused. What I also love about cacao is that they are a nonprofit on a mission to protect the native heirloom strands of cacao in both Peru and Guatemala by giving back to the farmers and communities that make it available to us. If you are interested in cacao with a K, go to the show notes and you will find a link for 10% off your first order, or simply by using the discount code Jessica, all caps, at checkout. That's JESSICA, all capital letters, at checkout. All right. Hello, beautiful people, humans, aliens. We just took a quick break so Brianna could get her car. So Brianna could get her guitar and play for us. So I'm going to go ahead and put myself on mute and allow her to share her gifts and beauty with the world.
Thank you. Yeah, I finished this song a couple days ago. It does not have a name, but it's along those lines of advice that I would give to my younger self. I hope you enjoy. On my way to better days, I watch my old life wash away. I wonder sometimes how she is, that little girl at 26. So insecure, gives it all away to men that have their age, and drinking late in the downtown bars and blacking out in subway cars. If I could go back then, here's what I'd say. Your worth is not determined by a number on a screen. And those who are deserving won't make you feel you're in between. So remember your passions and protect your energy, 'cause this life is full of magic, and my friend, one day you will see. Look around, eyes glued to phones, but afraid to think on our own. We're all depressed, stuck on that wheel, so you numb yourself so you don't feel. The constant thing in this world is change, but these days it's hard to remain sane. Old systems fall and truths exposed, and you question all that you have known. Now I have a voice, here's what I'll say. Your worth is not determined by a number on a screen, and those who are deserving won't make you feel you're in between. So remember your passions and protect your energy, 'cause this life is full of magic. And my friend, one day you will see. You'll see. Oh, you'll see. Oh.
Woo!
Thank you.
Ah. Wow, and you wrote that a few days ago?
Yeah, I think I finished it on Sunday.
Oh my God. Thanks for performing that for one of the first times ever. I so just appreciate the tone and depth of your voice, and just like the lows, like it hits like deep, and it's like an old soul speaking through. And so thank you for gifting us that beautiful experience.
Thank you for receiving me.
Yes. Hello, sacred humans. Quickly, I want to share with you something I've added into my daily rituals that has me buzzing, and that is Rise Mushroom Coffee. Rise entered my life through my Instagram algorithm that obviously knows what products I like, and I gave it a try, and just wow, it has amazingly delicious flavor. Not only this, they also have a mushroom matcha powder. Mind blown. And they're filled with superfoods and super mushrooms. What I like about Rise is that they use 100% organic ingredients, and their mushroom farms are located in California. If you've always wanted to try mushroom coffee but haven't yet pulled the trigger, this is your moment. And there is zero risk because they have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you're interested in the deliciousness of Rise mushroom elixirs, head to the show notes and you will find a link for 20% off your first order. Or simply use the discount code Jessica, all caps, at checkout. That's JESSICA, all caps, at checkout. And now, let's get back to our amazing episode of the Sacred Healing Podcast. I want to bring us back to the concept of this butterfly and like phoenix energy. And after you had that kind of like vision through breath work, you got your tattoo, like the butterfly is now like a thing in your life. Were there any synchronicities that started to show up in your life after that moment that like continued to bring you like these butterfly or like phoenix, either imagery or moments or things that you started to pay more attention to or become more aware to?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I started seeing butterflies everywhere in my reality, whether it be like in the most like obscure places, you know, the back of an Uber, and in the cup holder there was like a little butterfly sticker like inside. Like that was a recent one that I actually just happened to me the other day. Just like random things where I'm just seeing them, I'm noticing them around. And whenever I do notice them, or quite frankly any synchronicity with the universe, it's a take it as the universe talking to me about like, what energy are you currently in, and what energy are you wanting to exude? It's kind of like a reality check, an affirmation for, you know, the path that I'm on when I do experience these synchronicities. Because there are some days where all I see are synchronicities, and it feels like you're kind of living in this like magical other realm. But when I'm in those spaces, again, it's a question to myself of am I living from my heart? What energy am I exuding? And what energy am I calling in?
Do you believe in coincidence?
I don't think there are any such thing as coincidences. It's all conversation with the universe. And ever since shifting my mindset to that belief, the world has become that much more magical. And I think that's an interesting point about like metaphysics in general, and like kind of this spiritual realm, is that like your belief, well, like going back to the manifestation too, your belief is the most powerful aspect of all of this. So when I fully leaned into the idea that this world is magical and that the universe communicates with you and guides you, and that everything is working out perfectly in due time, world started to become more magical, and opportunities started opening their doors for me. It's a beautiful relationship between the individual and the universe, I'd say.
Yeah, it almost makes like these new neural pathways. You're like, oh, okay, and this is connecting, and this is connecting, and here's another synchronicity, and here this is coming into my life, and now this door is opening, and this door is opening. Now I have choices. Now there's like, and now there's 2 doors, but there's always a 3rd door. So like now I have so many choices, and I get to now like weave in this really cool symphony with the universe that is choice, but also manifested in such a unique way, and take whatever journey you want to take. But I mean, ultimately all rivers lead to the same ocean, right? So you're going to get there no matter which choice you choose. You do or have done some work with like energy and crystals. I know we all got our crystals. My husband's like, do you need, I love it. He's like, do you need those crystals? Like, I'm like, yeah, dude. Like, I need my crystals. He's like, how many though? How many do you need? I'm like, oh, the crystal. Yeah, just laughing at my crystal self. But you've done work with energy and with crystals. You have 2 crystals with you, I see. What has been your experience with working with energies and working with crystals? And what crystals do you have with you? Tell us.
I have like it's like fluoride that I picked up yesterday, and it's to help with vision and direction, and like staying on the course. And I have a malachite with me to expand the beautiful heart-centered energies that we are engulfed in right now. But again, with all of this, with energy work, with crystals, the biggest thing for me, and for I believe many people, is intention. What is your intention with working with them? And for me, it's always bringing more love into the world and aligning with my Dharma and my soul's purpose. And I ask my crystals before I start working with them to be aligned to my true purpose, and help me heal, and help me become a healer for others. And I do the whole gamut. I'll charge them in the full moon and set my intentions for the next moon cycle. I meditate with them, and I have different relationships with all of my crystals, and some are grounding, some are open up creative pathways, some are like this one, hopefully help me with my logical masculine of like getting shit done. So there's different intentions for working with them. But yeah, they've been a huge factor in my healing journey over the past couple of years.
Just like a quick side note, I like put a little like package of a few of my crystals, probably like 15 of them, more than a few, like 10 or 15. And I made like a little altar outside, and I put intentions into my crystals in the last full moon that we just had. And it was really cool because that night it was so bright out. I mean, it was like my husband and I were like, holy shit, like we can't sleep. It's too light in the room. Like it was like the brightness was like overtaking the house. It was so bright outside. And I live on a cranberry bog. And so there is this like aspect of nature, like just in our backyard, because it's a cranberry bog. And there's a coyote that lives in the bog, and he like comes near the house sometimes, and then like we can hear animals dying outside at night. I'm like, there's the yote. And so we have this like yote energy. I call him the yote. And he just kind of is in our space. And I put my crystals outside, and that night I had this dream, and I dreamt, and I hadn't been thinking about the coyote actually, but I had a dream about the coyote that he like went up and smelled my crystals and was like interacting with them and like gave them the energy of the coyote, which is like a super rascally, like intelligent, but like rascally energy. That was like really fun and playful, but also like powerful and abundant. And I felt that energy when I brought the crystals inside. I was like, has a Yodi smelled you? Like, what's going on? What did you guys experience last night? Because it all was in my dream. It wasn't like the reality of life, but I'm like, I know that Yote smelled my crystals. So anyway, talking about crystals and talking about the moon and like the power of energy, it was just like one of those things I was laughing about. And I was telling my husband, James, I was like, yo, the Yote came, smelled my crystals. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? I was like, yo, he smelled this shit.
I think the Yote definitely smelt your crystals, and
that Yodi smelled them hard. And I was like, I don't know what this means, but like they've got good energy now. So yeah, crystals are powerful manifestors, and only if you believe. Back to that belief.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been they've been a huge part of my life. It's funny, when I was a kid, I remember I first saw my first gem or crystal. I think at a metaphysical shop. I was like in Maine with my father, and I was like, whoa, this is so cool. And then I tried for years afterwards, anytime I'd see like a rock or a boulder, I'd try to break it to see if there were crystals inside, because I was just like obsessed. I had a little crystal collection as a child. And now I have an even bigger crystal collection as an adult. So
another synchronicity of why we're friends. I used to like crack rocks on the jetty, like at the beach when I was little, just to see what like crystals were inside of them. And sometimes they would have like really cool like patterns and shines and shimmers inside. And it was like, yeah, I found one. Yeah, that's awesome. And you've also worked with energy, which like ties into crystals as well, and had experience with Reiki along your healing journey. Which is a huge sacred healing modality. What's been your experience with Reiki in your life?
Yeah, well, I actually just got attuned Reiki 1, so I'm going to be I'm in the process now, but the goal is to be able to lay hands on and heal other people in the future, which is great. But Reiki,
I did not even know that about you, and I'm glad I asked.
This is a new thing as of like a couple weeks ago. So Reiki is so powerful. It's such a beautiful ancient healing modality. And it's amazing that it's accessible. This universal life force energy is accessible to all of us, and we all have the power to heal ourselves. But yeah, I've laid on many tables in the past couple of years, receiving Reiki medicine, and like I said, now I'm starting to lay hands on myself to channel this life force energy, to eventually be able to offer it to others.
That is magical, and congratulations. It's a huge journey. And I know that you're going to be just an amazing Reiki facilitator, because you have a presence about you that is very calming. Even though you're Capricorn, you still bring the energy of calmness and like really like intuition and groundedness. And I love that about you, because it can be both at the same time. And I have my Reiki appointment tomorrow with my gal. So I'm like, oh, I cannot wait to get tuned up to get this beast in line. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing all of that. And I'm really glad I asked about Reiki, because I almost didn't. And here we are with you about to be able to serve in another way, in addition to your music. I want to kind of bring us back around, because we talked about a lot. And I want to emphasize for everyone here, and would love your perspective as well, that not everyone needs to have this like big blow up, hit rock bottom moment in order to transform their life. Of course, I bring a lot of people on the podcast that have gone through like tragic scenarios and come out the other side in this big, beautiful way, but that doesn't necessarily need to be everyone's journey. And so for people that are listening that are like, oh, well, I haven't had my rock bottom yet, or I haven't had my spiritual awakening moment yet. It's like, you don't need to have that in order to transform. You just need to listen to your body and your intuition and your gut, which is like your true brain has more neurons than our brain does. So just listening to your body and starting to feel in and tap into yourself. And that brings us back to like the power of meditation, the power of feeling into your body. So I'd love to hear your perspective, because as somebody that's gone through like pre-tragic, tragic, post-tragic versions of Brianna, what is your advice for people that like haven't had a rock bottom moment or haven't had a spiritual awakening moment like you've had in such a profound way?
Yeah, beautiful question, because that is so true. You don't need to hit rock bottom in order to transform your life. We do go through these dark nights of the soul to come out on the other side, but also to influence and inspire others to do the same without having to hit that rock bottom. So I would say developing a relationship with yourself is the first thing that you could do to start this self-actualization journey, which is, no devices, no loved ones, and if you can't meditate, just 15 minutes journaling or with your own thoughts, just giving yourself a dedicated safe space to be with yourself is the first thing that I would say to get in touch with who you really are, and also getting in touch with what you loved as a child. Like a lot of the time we're so caught up with the day-to-day, with trying to get bills paid and trying to maintain a social life and experiencing life on this planet right now and taking in a lot of the scary, tragic events that are happening, and we don't really give any time to what we truly love. And if we go back to what 5-year-old Jess, 5-year-old Brianna loved to do, 10-year-old Brianna loved to do, it's provides you so much joy in your adult life. And I think there's a lot that comes from your childhood desires. It's oftentimes aligned with your Dharma and your purpose in this lifetime. We just are taught to disregard them at a certain point in time and become a cog in the wheel of some capitalistic machine. But I think true happiness does, stem from what we loved as a kid.
I love this concept, and it's something that I got introduced to through Blue, and she talks about the 5-year-old self a lot. And one of the things that she does that I've started to adapt into my morning routine and practice and altar ritual, prayer is having a picture of my 5-year-old self on my altar, and having a picture of my 5-year-old self like surrounded by crystals and just like loving energy, and knowing that the only person I need to impress from now until the end of time is that person. And so when you talk about that, it really just reminds me of, the purpose of why we're here on the planet. Not only is like, okay, find your Dharma, find your purpose, find your mission, but also like, we're here to play. This is a land of play, and we're here to play. And so kind of tapping back into that energy of, what did I want when I was younger? Like, what was that dream? And is it still possible? Or what pieces or parts of myself can I bring into my life now that can bring me more joy and more play? And for me, that's been like a huge practice, not only like finding joy in some of these mundane moments of like being in a house, taking out the trash, doing the dishes, making your bed every morning, like all those little moments that when you were a kid, you're like, I gotta clean my room, I gotta make my bed, but how can you make it fun, right? And so one of those things that is so childlike is like, how can we make things more fun and more playful and more joyous? So thank you for that reminder. I appreciate it. so much. And it's one of those, it's another tool in our sacred healing tool belt that we can pull out at any time, that we can commune with ourselves with. And taking it back to your point around technology too, like our phones are always in our pockets. You mentioned in your song too, like people looking down at their phones all the time, not noticing the world. And if you were looking down at your phone all the time, you wouldn't notice that butterfly in the Uber cup holder. You wouldn't notice the butterflies out in the world and nature. You wouldn't notice these synchronicities. The universe is trying to send you a message. And so the more that we can connect to ourselves, the more that we'll see all these synchronicities really weaving into our lives. So thank you. Thank you for that reminder. I appreciate that. So beautifully said. Yeah.
Thank you for receiving it. And yeah, I think there's something really powerful about wonder and childhood wonder, and just like getting back to that state of like awe. Like look around, look at this tree. It's magnificent and it's so complex, and there's so much, like I lose myself in the wonder sometimes. I think that's a really beautiful place to be.
Yeah. And I always come back to, I love that you use the word wonder and the word awe, because I've been studying kind of like linguistically what it means to have awe and to be in awe of something. And ultimately, it's an overwhelming feeling of reverence and admiration. But we use the word awe and we use the word awful, like in two separate ways, because awe is like being full of reverence, but being awful is being full of admiration. And we use this word in a way where we're like inspiring fear and saying like, oh, it's awful. That's awful. But it's like, no, it's awful. It's full of awe. It's full of reverence. It's full of joy. It's full of wonder. And so bringing ourselves back to that place where we can actually feel awful, but not awful, is like something I've been like really feeling into. Because why have we been like taught to like twist some of these words in a way that makes them negatively connotated, when really the emotion behind being awful is being full of admiration and full of reverence for something, and that can have the absence of fear in it. And so I love that you bring that up, because to me, like a child in full wonder is like full of awe, and full of awe for the universe and the world. And yeah, it's just an interesting concept to kind of break down what we've been taught about language as a child, to now look at it as an adult and be like, oh, okay, but that's what this really means, Man. So we could talk for like 17 hours, because you and I are friends and we talk on the phone all the time and we have deep conversations all the time. So I would love to close this loop out with talking about not only kind of like putting a little bow on your experience of leaving your job, manifesting the life that you're living now. What has been the biggest life-changing moment for you now that you've been living your Dharma? What's been the like most, let's call it the most full of awe moment that you've had since leaving your 9-to-5 corporate job and following your dream?
Sorry. Nala wants to participate as well. My dog. Sorry if you could hear that. Hey, you're good.
We welcome all animals, fur babies, everything. Well, it's welcome.
Okay. Well, this is just like really immediate because I just found out about this the other day. I wrote in my journal in January of 2023 I'm in San Diego when I first got to San Diego. And I hadn't even played an open mic yet. I was working my 9-to-5, was just playing music for my dog at this point. And I wrote in that journal, I'm going to be singing on the Music Box stage, which is the downtown music venue here in San Diego. And I just found out recently that I will be singing at the Music Box in January at a weekly residency, which is just wild. It was just one of those moments where I'm like, holy shit, like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I was sitting in a mental hospital. I lost a ton of friends, was in a shit ton of debt, was questioning everything in life. But the thing that I knew that I wanted to do for the rest of my life was to bring musical medicine into the world and pursue my dreams. I was like, I'm going to move to the West Coast and I'm going to become a musician. I'm going to move to the West Coast and become a musician. And hearing the news the other day about me singing at the Music Box in January, I'm just like, I'm living on the West Coast and I'm a professional musician. Like,
woo!
How did that happen?
Mind blown, manifesting and acting, and also moving to the place and being in proximity and abundance. So is this residency something that's like you're going to continue to play?
It's for I'm singing backup for a friend of mine who's a pretty prominent musician in the scene. But nevertheless, yes, it is. It's a weekly residency in January, and then I'm not really sure what's going to happen after that, but it's definitely an opportunity, needless to say.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations. Everyone who's listening, go listen to Brianna live. You gig about town. You gig about town. Where can people find your music stuff? Because I want to talk about some other things, but I want to know where I want people to be able to follow you on Spotify if they're just listening and tuning in.
Yeah, if they're interested. My artist name is Brianna Grace. There's a few Brianna Graces out there, but I have one song out right now. It's called "I Release You." It's about a boy who broke my heart. Shocker. I'm not the first one to ever write that. But yeah, Brianna Grace, I Release You on all streaming platforms, and I plan to release an EP of about 4 or 5 songs early spring of 2024. So you'll definitely have more of me there. And then I post a lot of my songs on my Instagram too, which is just Brianna Grace 444. Got an angel number in there, A
little angel number in there. Yeah, I will link everything in the show notes so everyone can easily click, follow, like, subscribe, all the things. So I will include your Instagram and your Spotify. And then do you have a website as well?
Work in progress.
Work in progress. Okay. So if your website is up and running by the time we air this episode, I will also link that in the show notes.
That's a good deadline for me, actually. So yeah, maybe it'll be the kick in the ass I need.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I have 2 final questions for you before we jump off, and they're very silly and they are just fun. The first question is, what is your spirit animal?
Oh, I'm gonna go with butterfly. We got to say,
okay, we've really been driving it home. Okay, butterfly, got it. And then the second one is, what is your vision for a more beautiful world?
I envision a world where people are free to live their authenticity, to live their Dharma, to pursue their passions freely, to create freely, a world where we are working together as one and remembering our true unity. And that's what's driving our progress, not anything else. That's based on unconditional love. Yeah. It's happening. It's coming. It's coming.
Oh, yeah.
We will create it from our heart spaces. And yeah, I feel it.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely. I do as well. And as you and I both know, words are spells, and you've been able to use words as spells to manifest and also now to sing to people's hearts and souls. So thank you for your presence today. Thank you for singing for us today. Thank you for sharing your heart and some of the most intimate, traumatic details of your experience over the past 2 years. And yeah, for anyone who's struggling with mental health, there are hotlines available. There are places that you can go for help. If Western medicine is needed, please use it. If you can find alternatives, please go and find those alternatives and talk to many people. Yeah, we hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day from wherever you're tuning in from. And thank you for listening to the Sacred Healing Podcast. Thank you, Brianna. Love you so much. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jess. This is beautiful, and I really respect and appreciate what you're doing with this podcast.
Love you.
I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me.